Hey everyone, Shabby Gamer here, and welcome to another episode of Shabby Talk. Now, this one's been a little bit delayed due to me being away for work and being a bit ill as well, but we're going to talk about the Superstar Shakeup and who moved across from Raw to SmackDown or SmackDown to Raw, and just basically my reaction on everything, and of course you guys can have your comments down below as well. So first of all, we'll start off with the people that moved from SmackDown to Raw. And we started off the show on Raw with The Miz and Maurice moving across, which I think was quite a good move. It's probably going to hit SmackDown quite hard because The Miz has been fantastic over the last year on SmackDown Live. He really has been one of the most dominant heels, and one of the reasons why a lot of people have tuned in. And his episodes of Smack Talk as well has been absolutely fantastic. So him moving to Raw is going to be a big loss for SmackDown. But I think they'll get away with it with the people that they got as well. But it's good for Raw. I think it's going to definitely add a bit of extra heat into the upper mid-card and maybe even the main event picture in the long term as well. But also alongside The Miz, we saw Dean Ambrose, the Intercontinental Champion, move over as well. Now, this one did surprise me because I've got a feeling, I can't remember for a definite, but I've got a feeling that Vince said that all champions would be immune to this. But however, of course, the Intercontinental Champion, Dean Ambrose, did move from SmackDown to Raw, as well as the belt moving as well, which as soon as that happened, I sort of knew that Kevin Owens would move as well, but it's a tricky one. I think Ambrose had become very stale on SmackDown, and I think the move into Raw with the Intercontinental Championship opens up a whole new range of feuds for him to have, and it would be pretty interesting to see exactly what's going to happen for Dean Ambrose now. Hopefully he can spark some life back into his career, because like I say, on SmackDown he was becoming pretty stale and a little bit boring in my opinion. So next we saw the movement of Bray Wyatt over to Raw as well. Now this one did surprise me as well. It sort of makes sense now why Bray Wyatt lost the championship at Mania. Obviously they must have had this in their mind. They wanted to move him to Raw, and obviously the only way they could do that was him dropping the championship. So it makes a bit of sense, but at the same time, I don't see the point. Again, it was another man who was really coming into his own on SmackDown, and now he's been moved into Raw. I'm hoping he's still going to be given that opportunity. However, it's very possible that he could just get lost in the upper mid card on Raw. There's a lot of names on there, and it's a very well thought after championship, and especially when you've got guys like Brock Lesnar as the champion, who's not going to be back for a couple of months. He's not working the next pay-per-view. He's not working Payback, which is why they've had to have Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton move into the main event picture on Payback, because Lesnar's not going to be there. So it's a tricky one. Hopefully he's going to be given some good feuds, and we're going to get the feud that I really want to see anyway, the Demon versus the Eater of Worlds. We're going to get Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt by the looks of it. But still, I just hope that there's still a big future for Bray Wyatt, because he was really coming into it on SmackDown Live, and yeah, I'm hoping he gets the opportunity still on Raw. We also saw the movement of Apollo Crews. Now this one was a little bit meh. It was the sort of one where he was doing nothing on SmackDown. Hopefully he can do something on Raw. Could they? Well, they can't sneak him into 205 Live because he's far too heavy for that, but he does have a very good style for 205 Live, and maybe mixing him in with some of those stars would be a real good thing for him. It's difficult for Apollo Crews because he is a very good wrestler. I think no one can take that away from him, but he's a little bit bland, isn't he? That's the problem. He's great if you just want to watch some pure wrestling, but if you want to see a proper storyline, then I don't think Apollo Crews is really a man. He's not been given much of an opportunity on the mic, but I should imagine that's because he's not overly confident on there. He's not great on the mic, so hopefully we're going to see some more of Apollo Crews as well, although he may end up, again, just getting lost in the mid-card over on Raw. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. We also saw Kalisto move from SmackDown to Raw. Absolutely no surprises here. It was always going to happen. I put it on my preview as well. Kalisto moving to Raw means that we can have another established another established main roster superstar added to 205 Live, and I think Kalisto's definitely going to improve that roster tenfold. He's a fantastic cruiserweight wrestler, and I really want to see him added into 205 Live. We saw Kurt Hawkins move from SmackDown to Raw, which really means nothing to nobody. It just means he can job to a whole new roster's worth of people. Also, Heath Slater and Rhino, again, a tag team I think I've barely ever seen on SmackDown over the last 6 months. Since they did all the great stuff, won the championships and this, that and the other, I've barely seen anything of them. So them moving from SmackDown to Raw, I don't think really affects SmackDown too much. And I don't think it really affects Raw too much. Rhino's been very much distracted by his political stuff outside the ring, so What's going to happen with that, I don't know. Maybe Heath Slater goes back singles wrestler. Maybe he teams up with somebody else. I've got no idea. But it's one that's not really going to affect SmackDown or Raw too much, that one, I don't think. But two that will affect SmackDown and Raw pretty hard is going to be the movement of Alexa Bliss and Mickie James from the SmackDown Live women's roster over to Raw. Both of those ladies have done a fantastic job, especially Alexa Bliss over the last year, of really bringing the SmackDown Live women's division to the forefront. Alexa Bliss, in my opinion, is probably one of the best heel females WWE had in a very, very long time. And Mickie James did pretty well coming back. And I said this in my little preview video as well, didn't I, that Raw needed some experience. And I think Mickie James moving from SmackDown to Raw can help give the experience to the women's division. Because at the moment, the Raw women's division, although being bigger, really lacks depth. It's always been all year about Charlotte, Sasha, and Bayley, and then eventually Nia Jax snuck in there as well. So there wasn't a lot of depth in that women's division, but now hopefully with Mickie James and Alexa Bliss in there as well, it could hopefully bring a bit more depth in. With Emma returning as well on Raw, that women's division should be a bit better this year. And we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But that was all the people that moved from SmackDown Live to Raw. And after watching Raw, I was a little bit disappointed that they've taken so many people from SmackDown. And I was a little bit worried about SmackDown, to be honest with you. However, I think SmackDown did pretty well out of it, to be honest with you. We started off the show with Kevin Owens, which was a massive, massive trade. Not a surprising one after Raw, let's face it. When Ambrose moved from SmackDown to Raw, we knew the United States Champion would move from Raw to SmackDown, no doubt about that. They have sort of prefixed this by saying that they've not drafted Kevin Owens, they've drafted the United States Championship. So basically whoever wins between Owens and Jericho will be on SmackDown. However, we know that Jericho's last match is going to be Payback, and he's going to go off and he's touring with Fozzy for a while, so we know it's definitely going to be Owens, basically. It's a massive trade for SmackDown Owens. I think he's potentially a great champion they could have there. Maybe going after Randy Orton, but of course at the moment he does have the United States Championship. We know after SmackDown as well that AJ Styles is going to be the #1 contender for that championship after the Owens-Jericho match, which means Owens versus AJ Styles is going to be a match that I cannot wait to see personally. And if Styles does take the United States Championship, that does allow Owens to go after Randy Orton in what I think would be actually a very, very good feud. Also, straight after that, we saw the trade of Sami Zayn. Now, this is one that everyone has been begging for all year. Sami Zayn, just like I was saying with the likes of Bray Wyatt and Apollo Crews and so forth, Sami Zayn has been that one guy who's been lost in the mid-card in Raw for the last year. Lost just underneath the main event. Not really been given a lot of opportunities. The only chances he has had is because of his history with Kevin Owens. He's not really been pushed and given any real big chances. There was rumours that up until a couple of hours before WrestleMania, Sami Zayn was supposed to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but Vince decided that he wanted to go the celebrity route with the Gronk, whatever his name is, which led to Mojo winning. But that would have been a massive thing for Sami Zayn. But this move to SmackDown, and he's already been in the main event trying to get the #1 contendership for the United States Championship, shows that SmackDown have got a little bit more for him, I think. I think they're looking at him a little bit higher up the card. And I think we're going to see the best of Sami Zayn this year. I think we're going to definitely see him hold a belt by the end of this year. That's my guess. Well, I think it will probably be the United States Championship, but you never know. They might push him into the main event picture as well. And I would love to see a one-on-one Sami Zayn versus AJ Styles as well. After that triple threat with Baron Corbin as well on SmackDown, I think that dynamic between Zayn and Styles could really pull off a fantastic, fantastic match. Also on SmackDown, one that sort of went a little bit under the radar because the guy's injured, and it was done very much as just a little vignette. Here you go, this guy's coming, he's been traded, is Rusev. Now, Rusev is a guy who, like I said, I think he's gone under the radar quite a bit. I think he's actually a very good wrestler. He can be a very effective heel, as most non-Americans are in WWE. But I also think that he's got the basis to be an incredible babyface. I think his comedy timing is absolutely fantastic, and I think if you've seen Southpaw Wrestling, I think he could definitely pull off a sort of comedy babyface, and we could really have a very effective guy there. But I think at the moment, staying as a heel would be absolutely fantastic, and he offers another person who could be main event over on SmackDown, and I think that's a very, very good move for SmackDown indeed. We also got in return for Heath Slater and Rhino the Shining Stars. Now, it's an interesting one, this one, because they've been absolutely crap on Raw for the last year, let's face it. But they moved on to SmackDown, and just that simple, just attack, slight change in attire, and all of a sudden they're looking like a semi-decent team. And I wonder whether SmackDown could actually make the Shining Stars a viable part of their tag team division. I hope they can, because I still think SmackDown's tag team division is a bit weak, and if the Shining Stars can be seen as a viable option to challenge for the championships, it's definitely going to improve the roster. If you look at it now, of course, with SmackDown Live losing the Vaudevillains, with Simon Gotch leaving, they only really have American Alpha, the Usos, and the Ascension. Add the Shining Stars, that's 4 teams. And of course, one of the other teams that were drafted over is the New Day. Now, that's 5 teams, and that would also make the SmackDown Tag Team division a lot stronger. It's not been the best over the last year. They got American Alpha and they got the Usos. Apart from that, they've not really used the Vaudevillains or Ascension very well at all. But I think now, this coming year, the Tag Team division will be a lot stronger once the New Day are fully recovered, because, of course, Kofi Kingston is out having surgery at the moment. So once that completely happens, then I think we're going to have a much stronger tag team division on SmackDown Live. We also saw Sin Cara move from Raw to SmackDown, which really surprised me. I thought Sin Cara would stay on Raw and again be part of 205 Live, but I don't quite understand this one. It's another mid-carder. Do they see Sin Cara as potentially going for the United States Championship, or is he just there to boost up the numbers? It's difficult to say, really. It's a bit of a weird one for me. I don't really understand it. I think he should have stayed on Raw and gone for the 205 Live as well. Jinder Mahal moved from Raw to SmackDown Live again, very much like Kurt Hawkins. Who really cares? He knocked bloody Finn Balor out on Monday Night Raw, causing Finn Balor to get himself a concussion, which is going to be out for another 3 or 4 weeks, which is terrible news. But now he's moved on to SmackDown as well. What else we get? The women's division was a tricky one, wasn't it? Because, of course, SmackDown lost Alexa Bliss and Mickie James, 2 very, very, very strong names in their women's division. They, in return, got Tamina Snuka, who, let's face it, is not great. They've advertised Lana as an actual female wrestler, which will be interesting to see if that does happen. I can't imagine she's going to be too good going for the championship. She's going to be sort of a replacement for Eva Marie, I would assume. And the big one, of course, was Charlotte Flair. Now, Charlotte Flair is a massive move for them. I'm just hoping that she doesn't go over to SmackDown and dominate the championship like she did on Raw. I think it's going to be very back and forth. I think there's going to be some good feuds this year. I think Naomi currently is the champion. You've got Becky Lynch there as well. I think Natalya should be given more of an opportunity than Charlotte Flair. I think the SmackDown Women's Division is still going to be pretty strong this year, and I think it might still end up trumping Raw's. But I think they've taken a big hit with losing Alexa Bliss, in my opinion. But if you offered them Bliss for Charlotte Flair, I think they probably would have taken it. If you'd offered them Tamina and Lana in place of Mickie James, would they have taken that? I don't think so. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit tricky. So, I think the one thing you've got to remember as well is it's not just the shake-up, it's also the guys they brought up from NXT as well. Of course, Raw got the Revival, which was a massive move for them. And of course, it really does improve their tag team division. And that makes me wonder now whether Raw's tag team division is a little bit too deep. Because if you think what they've got now, they've got Enzo and Cass, which I really thought would move from Raw to SmackDown to come back in with Carmella. You've got Cesaro and Sheamus, you've got the Hardy Boys, you've got the Revival, you've got the Club. It's just a very, very strong tag team division. I thought maybe the Revival would have ended up over on SmackDown, but it's a great move for Raw. Revival have really looked $1 million since moving up to Raw as well. Definitely made a massive impact by attacking the New Day and obviously sending Kofi Kingston away on injury to have his surgery. Of course, SmackDown Live were the ones that got the biggest moves. They got Shinsuke Nakamura, who I believe is there to replace Cena, because Cena's going to be gone now until, from what I've heard rumour-wise, until around about November time. So Nakamura's really going to take up the flak there. And, of course, Ty Dillinger moving into the upper mid-card picture on SmackDown Live as well. So I think, all in all, SmackDown has definitely come out on top of the Superstar Shakeup. And I think that's a good thing. Because I always thought that, although they were put on the best show week on week, their roster wasn't quite as deep. And now I think they've definitely been given a very strong roster. And if the writers did as well as they did with what they had before, with what they have now, SmackDown Live could really just leave Raw in its dust, really, I think. I think SmackDown is going to be an absolutely incredible show going forward, and I'm really looking forward to watching it. I sort of haven't watched Raw and SmackDown in a while. I've just been reading the results, but after the Superstar Shakeup, I'm now a lot more excited to see exactly what is going to happen. I'm sure you guys are as well. Just one other quick note that I realised after Raw and SmackDown, of course, is now, after the Superstar Shakeup, Ambrose, Reigns, and Rollins are all now on the same brand. Are we going to see maybe some sort of revival of the Shield at some point? All guys are currently faces. Well, if you count Roman Reigns as a face. So, yeah, could we possibly see the Shield back together for maybe one night only, or even loosely as going forward as a stable again? You never know what we could get, but I personally wouldn't do. I think they're all very capable singles competitors, and I think putting them back together wouldn't really help anybody, especially not Ambrose and Rollins, because those two guys are quite over with the crowd, and putting them back in with Reigns could really just sap away their popularity, really. But I think that's all I've got to tell you. Of course, if you've got any comments on what I've said or anything on the Superstar Shakeup, of course, drop it down in the comment section below, and I will get back to you on that as well. And of course, just have a conversation between yourselves as well. What do you think about the Superstar Shakeup? Do you think it was good? Who do you think came out on top? Do you think there was anyone that should have moved that didn't? Or do you think there was anyone that did move who shouldn't? And yeah, let's just have a conversation about it. Of course, as always, if you have enjoyed this, like, subscribe, and other good stuff. And I shall see you very, very soon for some more Shabby Talk. Bye.